Namaste, and welcome to the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston and our Bhagavad-Gita class. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad-Gita Bhavadveshinim Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om, O Mother Bhagavad-Gita, we meditate on you, who were made known to Partha, Arjuna, by the Lord Narayana himself. You who were included in the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. You, the goddess who rains down the nectar of Advaita, non-dualism, in 18 chapters. You, the destroyer of relative existence. We worship Krishna, world teacher, the son of Vasudeva, the delight of his mother Devaki, and the slayer of the demons Kamsa and Chanur. We adore that supremely blissful Madhava, by whose grace the mute are made eloquent and the lame are enabled to cross over mountains. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Om Peace, Peace, Peace be unto us all. So we are in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. If time permits, we will finish the remaining verses of chapter 12, starting with verse 13. So that means since there are 20 verses, there are 8 verses. We may finish them tonight. I would like to finish all 8 of them because they all go together. And so better that we take all of them together, and then next week we will be ready to start chapter 13. So we begin now. I'm not even going to review. Usually I review, but again, all I need to say for now, because it's not connected by story or anything else, just the context is the yoga of devotion, bhakti yoga. And so here in these verses that we're going to begin tonight, verse 13 through 20, or actually 13 through 19, 20 is a closing verse. 13 through 19, Sri Krishna tells the qualities of the perfected devotee, the qualities of character that are spontaneously manifested in the perfected devotee. And so the idea is that, and this is consistent with all of Vedanta, devotional Vedanta, non-dualistic Vedanta, that is impersonal or knowledge-oriented Vedanta, etc., is that the perfected sage, the man or woman who has attained to illumination, they spontaneously manifest all of the highest human virtues, those virtues which are universally recognized in all religious traditions and which are recognized by people. If people see these qualities in another person, no matter how crude they are, they respect them. I've seen that many times. In fact, oftentimes I've seen that so-called bad boys and bad girls, people who are looked down on by society because they're not considered the best people, that often they're getting into trouble and doing things they shouldn't be doing, etc. That even they, and sometimes especially they have a spontaneous respect when they see spiritual greatness. Oftentimes, people who think themselves the moral superiors of society, they have less appreciation for it because they are conceited by their own, what they consider their own social morality, their own social righteousness. And so they are less sensitive and less apt to recognize spiritual greatness than so-called bad people. I've seen that many times. And so what we're seeking is not social righteousness. That's all right. That has its place. There's nothing wrong with being a good person and a righteous person. So a person that's good. But we seek something superior to that, because that itself can become a bondage, as Swami Vivekananda often said. That's the golden chain that we have to let go of in order to attain to freedom. And so a person who attains to the heights of spirituality, they spontaneously manifest the highest virtues. They're not trying to be good. They're goodness itself. They're not trying to be truthful. They are truth itself. They're not trying to be straightforward. There's nothing else for them to be, because all of the crookedness has been burnt out of them. There's nothing left that could cause them to be crooked, that could cause them to be dishonest, cause them to be untruthful, cause them to be sneaky, etc., hateful, etc. And so that's what we want to attain. We want to attain to that state. But as Shankaracharya says in his commentary, this of course is Madhusudana, who bases his commentary on Shankaracharya's, though it differs in minor points here and there. But as Shankaracharya says in his commentary, these qualities are the qualities of a perfected soul, a person perfected through the path of devotion. But for us, these are practices. These are things that we take as practices. We can't, as one of the Swamis that early in my spiritual life that had an influence on me, he used to say that you can't remember all, they're over 30. I tried to count them this evening before coming to the class, but it depends on how you count them, how many there are. But no matter how you count them, they're over 30 qualities. And depending on how you count them, you get up towards 40 different qualities. Nobody can keep all of those qualities in mind. And so when you're living your daily life, you can't keep checking yourself. Let's see, am I doing number 1 all right, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and go through the list to make sure in every moment you're following all of these, practicing all of these virtues? No. But you take up 1 or 2 or 3 and make that the center of your life. Those things that that are appealing to you, that you have a natural bent towards, take those up and hold on to them. And that is enough. Why? Because all of these virtues are connected. So if you take up one and hold on to that with firmness, then the others in time will come. So you don't have to keep in mind 30 or 40 virtues that you're supposed to be practicing. Take up 2 or 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the most, and try to practice those. And if you study this text, the others will be there in your mind that will come to mind from time to time when you're facing a situation which pertains to that particular quality. So, and I'll give an example of that as when we get to one of the qualities here, an anecdote that I was part of. So let's jump into them. Begin with 13 and 14. I'll take them together as Madhusudana does because they form one sentence. Adveshna sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukha kshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma dridha nischayah mayarpita mano buddhir yo madbhakta same priyah. So a very beautiful verse in the Sanskrit. So this says, I'll come to the very end of verse 14. It says, the one who is described in these two verses, will come to the description afterward, but let me start with the conclusion for clarity's sake. One who has these qualities that are going to be mentioned, such a one who is my devotee is dear to me. So such a one who is my devotee, meaning to whom I am dear, that person is dear to me, who has these qualities. And so which qualities is he speaking of in these first two verses? Adveshta sarva bhutanam, who doesn't hate all beings. That is, he doesn't have hatred towards anyone. Here it's non-hater among all to all beings, but it means one who doesn't hate anyone. That, of course, as often in the Sanskrit, the negative quality is stated, but the positive quality is implied. And the positive quality comes next. Maitra karuna evacha. So one who doesn't hate any being, and who is maitra, who is a friend of all beings, and who is karuna, one possessed of karuna, compassion. So a person who has compassion towards all beings, who is a friend towards all beings, and who has no hatred towards anyone. So here you can see what I meant by it depends on how you count the characteristics. You could take this as one thing, one who has no hatred towards all but is friendly and compassionate, or one who has no hatred, one who is friendly, and one who is compassionate. So depending on how you count it, you go from above 30 to somewhere around 40. So again, this is a person who has attained to the highest truth. They hate none. They're friendly towards all. They have compassion towards all. They're possessed of compassion towards all. Why? These three qualities? Because they see themselves in everyone. Or since this is in the context of devotion, they see the beloved Lord. They see God in every being. And so how can they hate anyone? So for us, how do we practice that? If we become convinced intellectually, we become convinced that God exists in everyone, then when I find myself hating somebody, disliking somebody, it doesn't have to be as strong as hatred, but disliking somebody, I have to stop myself and say, how can I dislike anyone? God is in everyone. I may choose not to socialize with such people because it only causes me trouble, but I can't dislike them. I have to recognize God is present in them. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that God is in the tiger, but it doesn't mean you go and hug the tiger. No, you salute the tiger from a safe distance. And so there are people that we salute from a safe distance, but we do salute them. Because one who is not hateful towards anyone, not just not hateful towards nice people, not just not hateful towards people who are pleasant and who are friendly and who are sweet and who are compliant, etc. Not hateful towards anyone. Maitra karuna evacha, where he says friendliness, friendly and compassionate. That also goes with the Sanskrit phrase sarva bhutanam, towards all beings. So who doesn't hate anyone, and who is friendly towards all, and who is compassionate towards all. So all three of those qualities, a non-hater, friendly, and compassionate, goes with all beings. Many people get confused when reading the life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and the life of Swami Vivekananda, from that incident where Sri Ramakrishna was teaching in the future of Vivekananda. Narendra was present, and Sri Ramakrishna was speaking of the Vaishnava teaching, the Bengal Vaishnava teaching, Gaudiya Vaishnava teaching, that Name Ruchi, Jive Doya, Vaishnava Seva. Those are the three pillars of Vaishnava practice, according to them. And so Name Ruchi means taking delight in chanting the name of God. Jive Doya means compassion towards all beings. And Vaishnava Seva, service to other devotees. So he got to Jive Doya, compassion towards all living beings, and then he went into ecstasy. And after some time, he said, still in a state of ecstasy, compassion towards all living beings, he said. He went into ecstasy and then said, compassion, who are you to have compassion towards anyone, you worm? It's not compassion, it's worship of Shiva in the Jiva. That is, worship of God within the individual, within every being. And so he said, instead of compassion, it should be worship. And he said, who are you to feel compassion towards anyone? And so we get the idea that compassion is something bad. No, compassion is not bad. In other places, Sri Ramakrishna says that daya, that is another word for compassion, is noble, and that, what was, gosh, now I've forgotten the saying. Anyway, he said that compassion is noble, that something else was maya, but that is, was delusion. But daya is divine. And so compassion, what he was criticizing at that time when he said that not compassion but worship of God in all beings, was the feeling that I am a good person and I'm giving to some wretch. This person is a wretch and I'm a good person, and so out of the goodness of my heart, I give this wretch something. That was what he was criticizing. But that's not what Sri Krishna is teaching, what he means by compassion. So we always have to remember, when reading any spiritual teacher, the different words can be used in different ways. And so we always have to see what is the way in which this word is used. So here compassion means the feeling of empathy, the feeling of sympathy for all, the feeling that the sufferings of others are my sufferings. And maitra, friendliness, being a friend of all, from mitra, friend. Being a friend to all means feeling the joys of others. So feeling that the joys of others are my joys, so I have no jealousy. I'm glad when other people are happy. I don't think, why are they so happy? I should be happy. Why are they so happy? Why are they celebrating? They got good things. Why didn't I get the good things? Why did they get them? No, we shouldn't have any place for jealousy. We should be friendly towards all, meaning rejoicing in the goodness and the happiness of others. And karuna, being compassionate, means feeling these sufferings of others as our own, as if they were our own. So then we come to the second line, niramamo, no feeling of mine, that this is mine, that's mine, don't touch it because it's mine. In Latin countries, Latin America, and I don't know about in Spain. I've been in Spain, but I never had opportunity to hear this expression, but it may be there also. But I know that in Latin American countries, you go to someone's house, and they'll say, "Mi casa es tu casa." My house is your house. This is your house, meaning please make yourself at home. But it's a very beautiful expression that my house is your house. There's no distinction. So that nirmamo means without that sense of possessiveness. Nirahankara, the absence of egotism. Ahankara means ego, that I'm a great man. I'm a man born from a good family. I'm a respectable person, and everybody should recognize it, and everybody should treat me like a respectable person. And so that sense of pride in one's self and one's identity. Again, there also, as I said before, we always have to see the meaning of a word, because Swami Vivekananda said, "I am the proudest man alive." But his pride was not based on the egotism. His pride was pride in humanity itself. That he was proud to be Indian. He was proud to be a human being. He was proud of the larger identities. Not I'm proud of being Swami Vivekananda because I'm a great man. No, it was his identity with the whole that he was proud of. So the absence of possessiveness, this is mine, don't touch it, get away from it. The absence of egotism, I'm a great man, you should recognize my greatness. Samadukha sukha, the same in happiness and misery. The same in happiness and misery, because we recognize that happiness is the source of attachment and misery is the source of aversion. That one we're attracted to and the other we try to get rid of. And so one who has become the same in happiness and misery, that's a high state. But by understanding what is meant by it and beginning to practice it, we can get benefit even at an early stage in spiritual life. When happiness comes, when misery comes, when happiness comes, we don't get too excited because we know this is just one of the experiences of life. This isn't why I'm alive, to get these momentary moments of happiness, because this is going to pass away. So just let it come, let it go. Don't try to hold on to it, because you can't. It's going to go away. And when sadness comes, realize that also is part of life. I can't avoid that. So come happiness, come misery, it doesn't matter. Let me patiently experience both. And also, there's a deeper practice that at one point in spiritual life we can come to, where we actually begin to see that a pleasant sensation, we see it just as sensation. And a painful sensation, we see that just as sensation. We realize that it's the mind which interprets one as pleasure and one as pain. But we begin to see a sameness behind both. Both are just sensations in the endings of the nerves, sensations in the nerve endings. That's all that they are. So why get excited over them? Why get excited? Let them come, let them go. Don't be perturbed by them. And and if we can do that, then we become kshami, the next term at the end of verse 13. Kshami means one who is forbearing. We become forbearing if we are the same in happiness and misery. And forbearing means forbearing of physical conditions, and so happiness and misery in physical conditions, but also social happiness and misery, forbearing towards others who cause us suffering and who please us and who displease us, being forbearing in the midst of that also, being steady in the midst of social circumstances, being steady in the midst of physical circumstances. And so, of course, perfection in that comes, and perfection in any of these comes only with the highest illumination. But by practicing these things, we open ourselves to the possibility of illumination. And so as we practice them, we find that we get closer and closer. Our being becomes more and more irradiated by the presence of God. And so that's why we try to practice them. By approximating them, we gain everything. And then we find that these things which seem so difficult in the beginning, that those are our greatest joy. That we lament the fact that I can't practice them perfectly, because they bring us so much good. And that the opposite, the inability to do any of these things, is the source of misery. Most people, when they first approach a spiritual life, they think, well, there's so many things I'm supposed to do and other things I'm not supposed to do, that it's so difficult to lead a spiritual life, because all the things I want to do are what I'm not supposed to do, and the things that I don't want to do, those are the things I'm supposed to do. And so spiritual life just makes your life miserable and a frustration. No. With time, you begin to see that these are the things you're to practice because they improve the quality of your life. They improve the quality of your experience. And then you see there's nothing to go back to. In the other direction, there's only misery. I want to get away from that. I want to keep going in this direction. I want to leave that, because that is only misery. So for a long time in the beginning, as I often say, the beginning of spiritual life means many years. So for a long time in the beginning, we think of the difficulty of the spiritual life. But a time comes when we see, no, the difficulty is ordinary life. That's the difficulty. Spiritual life, yes, it may take a long time. And we may, even after years and years of practice, we may still feel far from it. But we find that going in that direction is far easier than going in the other direction. And that direction is only misery. So then verse 14, which we already chanted, the next quality is santushta satatam, contentment in all circumstances. Contentment always, contentment in all circumstances. It's often said that contentment is the greatest wealth, and the person who is not contented is the most miserable person. Here also we have to understand what is meant, because oftentimes, especially in the West, nowadays in India too, because these values have, of course, spread all around the world, but in the West, which was the source of this idea, People say, well, contentment, that's the opposite of progress. If you're content, then there's no progress. It's because we are discontent. Because we are discontent, we're not satisfied with the present. We're always working to move into the future and to improve our lot and to make things better. That's what makes us great. No, as Swamiji said, if that is your philosophy of life, that we're continually going to improve things, we're going to make this a better place, then your goal is out there somewhere and you're never going to get there. Yes, you may improve some things, but you're going to die with a vast mass of unimprovement still left. You're never and birth after birth after birth, you can come back, and you'll never perfect the world because the world can't be perfected. So it's far better to have contentment, which recognizes the world for what it is, and which recognizes that the things that I need in life, they'll come to me. I don't have to be anxious about that. Yes, the things I have to do to lead a normal life, and that I do because they're there and they have to be done. But that's why I do it, because it has to be done. But in the midst of all of that, to remain content. Contentment is a tremendous source of happiness. In fact, it's the only real source of happiness. So santushta satatam, in every circumstance, always and in all circumstances, being content. Yogi, one who is a yogi, that is one who is practicing, striving for spiritual union, spiritual enlightenment. So that is another quality, being a yogi. Yatatma, being self-controlled. Yata Atma, the self being yata, being controlled. So yata from the same root as the yamas and niyamas. So having self-control. So we on the spiritual path, we have to practice self-control. We have to catch ourselves. We have to discipline ourselves, etc. It's work. Yes, it is work. But for the illumined soul, there's no work whatsoever. They're completely free. Because self-control is spontaneous. In fact, there's not even self-control because their self has become everything. We have to control ourselves because our sense of self is this little thing, this little insignificant thing, and we're always trying to get things for it and to keep other people from having things because it might take something away from me. So let me get for me and keep other people from getting, because that diminishes me if other people are too happy. And so we have to practice self-control because of that identification. But if our identity is with God, then what self-control could you possibly practice? The mind is immersed in God. The mind is identified with God, not with the body. And so there's no self-control whatsoever. So from our standpoint, we see them and see that they're perfectly self-controlled. Perfectly self-controlled. Swami Nirvanananda, the disciple of Swami Brahmananda and one of the past vice presidents of the order that I knew, great Swami, he said once that I have no desire ever arises in my mind. No desire ever arises in my mind. So just think about that. So that is what yatatma, perfect self-control, means. Dridha nischaya. That's something that's more approachable. Of course, self-control, that's something we can practice. We can try to do it. But dridha nischaya, that also is a high quality, but it's something that seems more in our grasp. And that means firm conviction. That is the firm conviction that I am one with God. I am the self. I am the Atman. And my self is one with the self of God. So that firm conviction that I belong to God or I am one with God. It doesn't matter, whichever one is more comfortable to you, is more natural to you, take that. But that firm conviction. So that through study, through hearing, through reflection, through thinking about it over years, meditating, praying, etc., we gradually develop a firm conviction. So say if we're on the path of devotion, the firm conviction that I belong, say just to narrow it down into concrete terms, say I belong to this Ramakrishna Vedanta tradition, that I belong to Sri Ramakrishna. I belong to the Holy Mother. I don't belong to anybody else. I don't belong to the world. I belong to them. That has become a firm conviction that whatever mistakes I make, however forgetful I may be, I know that they are looking out after me and that they want to let me go. To use Sri Ramakrishna's saying, I've been bitten by a cobra, not by a water snake. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that if you've been bitten by a cobra, then there's no help for you. If you've been bitten by a water snake, then you're not going to die. But if you've been bitten by a cobra, then you're finished. And so we have been bitten by the cobra, by Sri Ramakrishna. And so my destiny is now his, not mine. So if we get that firm resolve, then that's what this is talking about. Sri Ma M, the Master Mahashoy who recorded the gospel, he used to say that he was asked what he had gotten, what was the most important thing he got from Sri Ramakrishna. And he said, faith, Vishwas or Shraddha. That's a strange thing because you would think, well, ecstasy or illumination, spiritual experience and all of that, but he said faith. But for him, faith meant this, that spontaneous knowledge that God is. There was no doubt whatsoever, no doubt because of the experience that he had through the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. But he expressed it as faith. So that's what this means. And then, Mai arpita mano buddhir, having offered their mind and intellect into me, mad bhakta same priya, such a devotee of mine is dear to me. That is, such a one to whom I am dear is dear to me. So the person who has all of these qualities is dear to me. And then verse 15 continues, Yasman nodvijate loko lokan nodvijate chayaha harsha marsha bhayor dvegair mukto yasacha me priyaha yasmat na udvijate loka. One who does not disturb others. Literally, it means from whom the world is not disturbed, or other people are not disturbed. From whom the world is not disturbed, or people are not disturbed. So one who doesn't disturb other people. So I mentioned at the beginning of this class that I would mention an anecdote from one of these, how it comes to your aid. If you've studied these things, it comes to your aid in particular circumstances where that particular quality is needed. So many years ago when I was in San Diego, where I spent 13 years, at the center there, Swami Shraddhananda once came down and stayed overnight while I was there. And this must have been around 1988 or 89, probably 1989, something like that. So he came down, stayed overnight, and at that night, I heard maybe from his attendant, Chuck, who was there, that Swami liked something. And so I went to Swami and said, Swami, can I provide you with such and such? And he said, do you have it? And I said, no, but I can go get it. And he said, no, don't do that. And so I insisted. I said, Swami, please, it's no problem. I'll go get it so that you will be comfortable. And he said, no, I insist that you not go to get it. In the 12th chapter of the Gita, it says, Yasman no dvijate lokaha, from whom the world is not disturbed. And so I will not disturb the normal course of things here. So for my sake, you do not go to get that. And so again, that had come in his mind that I, Swami Shraddhananda, should not be the source of disturbance to anybody. And so he refused the offer of help. I don't remember the specifics of it, but that doesn't matter. And then lokan no dvijate cha yaha, and who is not disturbed by others. That doesn't mean that he's so great that nobody tries to disturb him. No, it means that even if people try to disturb him, he can't be disturbed. He or she can't be disturbed. So one who doesn't disturb, doesn't cause disturbance to others. Why? Because they're thoughtful for others. They're not trying to get advantage in every situation. They're patient, they're forbearing, etc. And who are not disturbed by others, even if the others try to disturb them. They remain above the ability of others to disturb them. And then harsha marsha bhayor dvegair muktaha. So one who is free from harsha, that means a sort of excited happiness, where you get elation. That's the term. So one who is free from elation. Now that sounds like a negative thing. Why shouldn't I get elated when something good happens? I want to be elated. That's what we live for. Those moments when we feel elation. No. Because that means that you're opening yourself to the opposite. And to attain to a steadiness of mind is far superior in quality, in experienced quality, to the elation we feel when something goes our way and we get something we want or something happens that's very pleasing to us. That elation is nothing compared to the state of steadiness of mind, the joy felt in steadiness of mind, where we're not disturbed by the things that happen in the outer world. So free from elation, and amarsha, free from jealousy. Amarsha means jealousy, and so free from jealousy. So free from elation, free from jealousy, harsha marsha bhaya, and free from fear, and udvega, and from udvega mukta, free from anxiety. So free from fear and free from anxiety. Of course, the two are different. Fear meaning something that you're actually afraid of directly, and anxiety something that causes you worry. And so such a person is free from all of these qualities. So here also, depending on how you count, you can count each of these as a different quality, or you can count it as being free from all of these things as one quality. So harsha, elation, amarsha, jealousy, bhaya, fear, and udvega, anxiety, being free from all of these things. Yasa cha me priyaha, such a one also, also is dear to me. Such a one is dear to me, who has these qualities. Now, of course, the question comes, does that mean that those of us who don't have any of these qualities, are we not dear to God? No, of course, all of us are dear to God. Our very being is dear to God. God dwells in the hearts of all. And God is the heart of the universe. But just as you see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, that when he saw somebody who is able to accept the fullness of his teaching and his spiritual influence, then there was a delight beyond measure in Sri Ramakrishna. And so God delights in the hearts of those who are able to commune with God. And so that's why we become, if we attain to these qualities, we become dear to God. Everyone's dear, but especially dear if we're able to commune with God. Where Sri Ramakrishna said that God sometimes is, the devotee is the bee and God is the lotus, in which the bee sips the nectar of God, the lotus which is God. But he said sometimes the devotee becomes the lotus and God becomes the bee, delighting in the nectar in the devotee's heart. And so it's not just love for God, but God's love for us also. So then in verse 16 says, Anapeksha shuchir daksha urasino gatavyatha sarvarambha parityagi yo madbhakta same priyaha. So anapeksha, one who is indifferent. Anapeksha means indifferent. It implies one who has no desires. So one who has no desires, like I said about Swami Nirvanananda, no desire ever arises in my mind, he said. An amazing statement. And so, as I've said on other occasions, we can't attain to that by just deciding, okay, I'm not going to desire anything. Well, then we find that all kinds of desires start rushing into the mind. So with this particular quality, we go at it obliquely. That is, we desire that which is outside of the realm of desire itself, which sounds contradictory, but it's not experientially. That is, we desire God. We increase our desire for God, not worrying about the desires for things. Let that take care of itself. Let me increase my love for and desire for God, because, as Sri Ramakrishna said, that's a desire which is contrary to all desire. The desire for God is not a desire in the ordinary sense. That's a desire for illumination. That's a desire to attain to the state which is free of all desire. And so let me go towards that. So just saying I'm not going to desire anything, that doesn't work. Then Shuchi, one who is pure, a person who is pure-hearted. That is another quality. And then Daksha, one who is dexterous. Daksha, dexterous. In the second chapter of the Gita, Sri Krishna says, Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Kaushalam is a word that's more or less a synonym of Daksha. Yoga is dexterity in work. And so here, Daksha, dexterous, means not that he can do all kinds of things, and he's ambidextrous. He can use his right hand or his left hand. He can be a switch hitter in baseball, and he's good at football, good at basketball, and good with tools and all of that. No, dexterous here means dexterous in doing the right thing at the right time. Doing the right thing at the right time. So dexterous in that sense. And then udasina, that's similar to anapeksha. Anapeksha here being desireless, and udasina being unattached. So they're similar, but the emphasis is different. Being unattached to things, and anapeksha meaning not having desires. So the emphasis is different, udasina. And gata vyataha. Vyataha means pain. Like in modern Bengali, beta korche. It's hurting me. Beta is the Bengali pronunciation of vyata. And so gata vyata, free from pain. So even if the body is in pain, such a one is free from pain because they're not identified with the body. So that's a very high state. What we can do is be forbearing. We can't decide I'm not going to feel pain. No, that doesn't work. But at least we can be forbearing and know that happiness and misery come and go, pleasure and pain come and go. So let me try to forbear. But eventually it's not a question of forbearing. Eventually it's a question of there's no pain because we're beyond that. So then sarvarambha parityagi, one who has renounced all undertakings. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to start this, I'm going to start that, I'm going to tell this person off, I'm going to do that, etc. That is gone. In our life, we have to do things, we have to make decisions, we have to make sankalpas. That is, we have to have intentionality. We have to have intentions to do things. And so that is part of life. But this is one of the qualities which at the highest level, that just comes. But the way we approach it is by practicing surrender. We can't surrender yet, but we can practice surrender. And so by practicing surrender, we're moving towards the state where we've renounced every undertaking. Yo mad bhakta same priyaha, again, that same line. Such a one who is my devotee is dear to me. And then we come to verse 17. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti na shochati na kangshati shubha shubha parityagi bhakti manya same priyaha. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti. One who does not rejoice, one who does not hate, one who does not grieve or lament, and one who doesn't hanker after things. So these four things that the perfected devotee doesn't do, the pairing of them are not 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4. It's 1 and 3 and then 2 and 4, which are paired together. So yona hrishyati, one who doesn't rejoice, and na shochati, the third quality, who doesn't lament. So free from both rejoicing, oh, I got what I wanted, oh, and who doesn't lament, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. So free from those two. Oh, I'm successful. I'm so happy I'm successful. And I'm unsuccessful. I'm so unhappy because I'm unsuccessful. No, free from rejoicing and free from lamenting. And then the second and fourth, nadveshti, doesn't hate, and kankshati, doesn't desire. So hatred means aversion towards things, but whether it's a person or a thing, I hate that, or I hate so-and-so, no. And kankshati, I want it, pulling towards and pushing away. So attraction and aversion, they have no attraction and aversion. So again, these are high, very high descriptions of not just a high state, of the highest perfection. And so again, we approach these, we practice them by minimizing our likes and dislikes. Try to minimize your likes and dislikes. Don't, when we're little kids, as part of developing a sense of identity, little kids always discussing, what's your favorite color? What's your lucky number? What's your favorite day of the week? Which of the 4 seasons of the year is your favorite season? And so forth. It's a way of, again, establishing a sense of identity that little kids have. But as we mature, we should give up those little insignificant senses of identity. Oh, I'm this kind of person, or I'm that kind of person. I like this and I hate that. No, people have likes and dislikes. Even saints have certain things that they like and certain things that they don't like. Even St. Francis of Assisi, a perfected soul, a great realized soul, St. Francis of Assisi. But when he was on his deathbed, one of his devotees, a woman, she came to him. She was so close to St. Francis that Francis called her brother so-and-so, rather than sister so-and-so, because he being a monk, he could be closer to her as a brother. So he called her brother, I forget her name. But he asked her to prepare him a dish that he was fond of. St. Francis, during his life of sadhana, he used to put ashes and other things into his food so that it would taste bad, in order to get over the desire for tasty food. But now at the end of his life, he didn't need to do that. And so he wanted something that he ate something that he liked, asked for something that he liked. But such a person doesn't live for that and doesn't identify with that. They're natural likes and dislikes that everyone has, but those are just something that's insignificant. So don't think that you're not going to have any likes and dislikes, except when you're immersed in God, then of course there's no question. But minimize your likes and dislikes. Realize that those are insignificant. As Swami Turiyananda used to say, in matters of opinion, go with the flow. In matters of principle, stand firm as a rock. So, and then the next line, Shubha Shubha Parityagi, completely renouncing the sense of good and bad. Completely renouncing the sense of good and bad. Now, yes, that doesn't mean that a spiritual person doesn't know what is morally good and what is morally offensive. But they look with even eyes on all, on saint and sinner. They see, look at the Holy Mother, who she said that Amjad the robber was just as much her son as Swami Sharadananda, the great illumined soul, great saint. So she made no distinction between Amjad the robber, who probably had killed people, and Swami Sharadananda. Both were equally her children. So Shubha Shubha Parityagi, giving up that sense that, oh, this is a good person and that's a bad person. I like this person, I don't like that person. Bhakti Manya Samapriya. Such a devotee is dear to me. And then verse 18, Samashatro cha mitre cha tatha manapamanayoh shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samasanga vivarjitaha. Samashatro cha mitre cha, the same to friend and to enemy, or as it's listed here, same to enemy and to friend. Shatru and mitra, same to enemy and to a friend. Both are equal to the perfected person. Tatha manapamanayoh, and the same in honor and dishonor. The two are the same. There's a story told of a great Zen monk. He's not one of the great Zen masters who is recognized, but in the story he's recognized as a great monk. He was falsely accused of someone of having impregnated a woman. And so he was thrown out of the monastery. And so he went and continued to live like a monk, but he took care of the woman who he was falsely accused of having impregnated. And then it was found out that he wasn't, circumstances revealed that he wasn't the one who had done that. And so then he went back to the monastery and continued living. But there was no difference in his behavior between the two. He was the same in both honor and dishonor. And so that, of course, is an extreme case, but it illustrates, and who knows whether it's actually historical or not. It may just be a story, but that doesn't matter. The purpose of the story is to illustrate an ideal, that is, being the same in honor and dishonor, as Sri Ramakrishna was. Sri Ramakrishna, honor and dishonor meant nothing to him. And there are many examples of that, like the well-known example of when the manager of the temple, after Mathur Babu had passed away, who it never would have happened in Mathur Babu's time, or Rani Rasmani's time before that. But after Mathur's passing away, the manager of the temple got angry with Hriday, the nephew of Sri Ramakrishna, and they drove him out of the temple and said, and if Sri Ramakrishna goes, let him go too, just out of frustration. And so the word was taken to Sri Ramakrishna that this is what the manager said. So Sri Ramakrishna picked up his towel, the gamcha, and just walked out of the door and started walking out of the temple grounds. And the manager heard what had happened, and he realized his mistake. So he went running after him, fell at his feet and begged him, "No, sir, I didn't mean you. You please come back, begged him to come back. So Sri Ramakrishna turned around and walked back to his room. But it was the same, whether he had to leave or whether he had to stay, it didn't matter to him, because he was free from honor and dishonor, and many other examples of that as well. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu sama, the same in happiness and misery, and in heat and cold and heat. The same in cold and heat and cold, the same in happiness and misery. So, of course, that is a high state. And again, we can only approximate it as we practice it. Some of these we can go more directly at. Others we have to be careful and just approximate. And so, like being able to bear heat and cold, we can start just by not being so mentally sensitive to heat and cold. Yes, we have to protect our health, and yes, we have to be careful that some things will make us sick, and so forth, but not to always be so sensitive that we can't bear 1 degree up and down. Learn to be forbearing. If it's a little hot, if you're in control of the thermostat, fine, set it to where you're comfortable. But if you go somewhere else and the temperature is not exactly to your liking, learn just to bear it. Learn to bear it. If it's so bad that you're getting sick, that's a different thing. But learn to bear the pairs of opposites as much as you can. And happiness and misery. Sangha vivarajitaha, and who is free from attachment to everything. Sangha, attachment, vivarajita, absent, free from, devoid of attachment. And then also the verse 19, Tulyaninda stutir moni santushto yena kenachit aniketa stiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. So Tulya Nindas Stutir Moni, Tulya Nindastuti, who is the same, who is equal, even in praise and blame, even in praise and blame. Because neither the illumined soul doesn't take either as pertaining to them. What are they talking about? I am one with the universal. What is their praise and their blame? That's empty to me, and so free from that. Moni, one who is silent. Now, moni is usually used for one who has taken a vow of mona, of silence, and who doesn't speak at all. That can't be what he means here, because not every realized soul takes a vow of silence. They don't need to take a vow of silence. But moni means basically silent. The mind is silent, the mouth is silent. They speak when there's something to speak about. When there's nothing to speak about, they're still. That I've seen in people like Swami Nirvanananda, Swami Vireshwarananda, and such people. You see them and you see that their mind is perfectly still. And only when there's a need, then they become expressive. But otherwise, the mind is like an ocean. Santushto yena kenachit. Before we had santushta, content. Here it's santushto yena kenachit, satisfied with anything. So before santushta meant general contentment, contentment with life's circumstances. But here santushto yena kenachit means with whatever comes to them. So one is with the general life circumstances. The other is with what comes to you in the way of food and clothing and so forth. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever is given to me, that's enough. Aniketa means they don't have any niketana. They don't have any home. So that, of course, means in an absolute sense for a monk, a sadhu, then they should have the sense that I have no home, or the whole world is my home. But what about for a householder? It means that the householder doesn't have as their identity their earthly home. That yes, I live here. Yes, God has given me this for me and my family, but this isn't my real home. So the householder also should gradually become aniketa, homeless in that sense. And stiramati, one whose mind is steady. The mind is perfectly steady. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Such a person is such a devoted person, such a person filled with devotion is dear to me. And so then we come to the concluding verse of the chapter, verse 20. Ye tu dharmamritam idam yathoktam paryupasate shraddadhana matparama bhaktaste tiva me priyaha. Ye tu dharmamritam idam yathoktam paryupasate. So those who practice completely, paryupasate, practice in a comprehensive sense, that is, practice fully, identify fully with these teachings which I have just given, these qualities that I've just given. Yatoktam, which I have just told, dharmamritam, with these words which I have just told, this practices which I have just given, which are filled with the nectar of dharma, of righteousness. Shraddadhana, such people filled with faith. Shraddadhana, matparama, with me as their supreme goal. Bhaktaste tiva me priya, such devotees are extremely dear to me. So again, the running translation is, but devotees who accept me as their supreme goal, matparama, who becoming filled with faith, shraddadhana, practice with full diligence, paryupasate, this ambrosial virtue, dharmyamritam, as stated, yatoktam, before. They are very dear to me. Bhaktaste tiva me priyaha. Such devotees are very dear to me. And again, why? When he's just said that to the perfected devotee, then they're equal to friend and to enemy. They are equal in all circumstances. They're free from jealousy and all of that. So why does God have his favorites? Well, no, the idea again is not that. The idea is that in the soul which has become perfectly surrendered, perfectly compliant to God, perfectly open to God, who has no obstacles, the mind has become perfectly pure, then they have become the divine being itself. And so there's that recognition of identity. And so that's why they are dear to God. It doesn't mean that I love this guy, but I don't like that guy. No, that's our problem. That's not God's problem. It's a question of here there is no obstacle to God whatsoever. God is fully manifested in such a person. So in that sense, such a devotee is very dear to God because God is fully manifested there. So these again are the qualities of the perfected devotee, and these for us are practices, things that we are to meditate on, to internalize, and to practice. So chapter 12 is a very beautiful chapter. Of course, I say that about almost all of the chapters, but chapter 12 is a very beautiful chapter and deserves a lot of deep thought and reflection and reading over and over and internalizing. So we'll stop for tonight. And let me give you the announcements. And if there are one or two questions, I can take those after the announcements. On Thursday, we will have the Bhagavad-Gita class, as usual. I mean, that's the Bhagavad-Gita class, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class on Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning, as usual, live streamed. And on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the talk will be on the new series on Hindu gods and goddesses, speak about Ganesha, the historical roots of Ganesha, the significance of Ganesha, etc. So that will be the topic on Sunday, and then next Tuesday we will continue the Bhagavad-Gita class. So in this way, for the rest of July, we'll continue with all of the classes, God willing, inshallah, as they say in Arabic, God willing, there'll be no exception to that. And then in August, we'll be closed as usual, and then begin again in September. So no questions? Okay. So we'll say a closing chant from the Gita Dhyanam. Om Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutastun Vandidivyaistavaihi Vedai Sanghapada Kramopanishadair Gayandiyam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyandiyam Yogino Yasyandam Navidu Sura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. We bow to that Supreme Being, whom Brahma and other gods praise with divine hymns, whose glorious the singers of the Sama hymns sing through the Vedas and Upanishads, whom the yogis see with their mind absorbed in that through meditation, and whose end and beginning neither the gods nor the demigods, the asuras, know. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.